Uncle Ron and stuff. How about this? Yeah, I get it right. Today is not the usual Uncle Ron and stuff. Today is a rant about taxes. And I don't know if I dug deep enough. I think I could find evidence that governments fail because of taxes. The United States is a land of taxes. I probably couldn't even list all the kind of different taxes we have, from the federal to the state to the city to the county to, I don't know, gasoline tax, real estate tax, personal property tax, federal income tax, state income tax, um, road use tax. There's even a water tax in the state of Maryland where they calculate how many square feet your roof is and they charge you for the runoff because it goes to Chesapeake Bay. The taxes, 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 corporate taxes. Okay, uh, why does governments fail? Because of taxes. Why are people poor? One of the reasons is taxes. Sales tax. Everybody talks about progressive income tax. The more you make, the more you pay. Okay, all right. Why don't we take the same approach on sales tax? Sales tax hits poor people a lot harder than it does wealthier people, yet they have to pay sales tax. Okay, if I took any one thing, I don't care what it is, I was trying to think like a made United States thing, totally American ingredients. Let's take, for example, an apple pie. Okay, we got to farm someplace because they got to grow the wheat. Okay, the farmer, he's got to buy a seed or whatever. He pays sales tax on that. He's got to pay real estate tax on the farm he owns. He's got to buy machinery. He has to pay taxes on the machinery. It's also, yeah, maybe he's a company and he can write some of it off, but he pays taxes on that. He pays taxes on all the supplies he uses. He plants. He collects his harvests. Again, all the machines. If he electricity to run, yeah, he pays utility tax on that. Uh, Any computers, every equipment he uses, he's got to pay tax on that. Okay. He harvests his crop. Now, he's had a lot of expenses to get that crop, a lot of which are taxes. So he goes and he sells his grain to somebody. Okay, it has to be harvested, so he's got diesel powered, gasoline powered, he has to pay tax on all that. When it's harvested, it's put into trucks. Uh, Road use tax for the truck, gasoline for the truck, income taxes on the driver in the truck, income taxes for the company that owns the truck. They've paid taxes on all of the assets they had to buy. Okay, the truck now takes all this grain to real estate, rail yard or someplace. Same story all over again. Taxes were paid on every, the diesel locomotive fuel, the the taxes, taxes, taxes. So it finally gets to some distribution point where it's put into a warehouse, and warehousing companies paid income taxes and everything else, utility taxes, uh, paid their labor, they paid income taxes. It's uh, the machinery, the plant, all that. Yeah, there is some depreciation that they can write off on all that stuff, but they start making. They've got enough to make the pie portion, the pastry portion. Same thing's true for an apple orchard. Taxes every time you turn. Now, the base element of important here is these people, they need to make some profit out of it. Yeah, that is the motivation. That's what made America great, was the ability to organize and use resources in an efficient way such that you could sell a product in a competing market and still make money after all your expenses, including all those taxes. Okay? One of the things that the American Congress does not understand, or they do and they don't care, is companies in America are for profit. They are not non-profits. Even if they were non-profits, they have all those taxes and all those expenses. So it gets built into the price that non-profits uh, wind up with that they can use for people. Okay. So at the factory where I'm making apple pies, like I said, I got all this machinery. I got the utility taxes. I got all that stuff. The apples finally come in. They've had all this taxes, road taxes for transportation, the truck driver income taxes, the transport company income taxes, state taxes, road taxes. I don't know. Anyway, everybody has to make a profit. So they have to include those taxes in their costs and then charge for their product or service above all that. Okay? So every time taxes are raised, a for profit corporation either has to eat that or they have to raise prices. The only thing keeping prices from being raised is competitors who could somehow do it more efficiently, uh, and that holds prices down. The other thing is, of course, the consumers don't have to buy the apple pie, so the company, one of the things they do is they change the size of the apple pie. Less ingredients, charge the same price. Inflation. Okay. Taxes can be directly connected to inflation because we live in a country that is supposedly uh, uh, a competitive free market. That's what it's termed. We do not live in a free market. It is controlled and taxed by the federal government, who decides in their wisdom. A good example of that, it really bothers me, is income taxes for the individuals. It used to be you could literally write off all the contributions you make to charities. Okay, you decide who to give to and how much to give to and so on. Over the years, the federal government has decided they're losing too much money, income, by letting you decide where you want to give your money. So they have reduced the charitable income deduction on personal income taxes. They decide who gets the money and when. Okay? They have reduced that. It's slick. They did not raise income taxes. No, 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 no. They just closed what they call a loophole. They reduced the amount of your charitable contribution from your income taxes. You don't know what you're doing. Why should you have the right to give to whoever you want? No, no, no. They have done that in a lot of things. Some high income earners don't even have a personal deduction on their income taxes. They're not even entitled to be a person to deduct the amount that is called a personal exemption. No, I don't know. That is not raising income taxes. That's just closing a loophole. Okay. Anyway, back on taxes. It, everything has multiple taxes on it. That grain I talked about, it was transported 7 times. Every time there was road tax, gasoline tax, tax on the machinery, and there was some attempt to make a profit on every step. Okay. What did the price of grain arriving at the bakery cost compared to what the seed was? A lot. A lot of it was taxes. The government understands you got to make a profit. Why do it if you're not going to make a profit? Out of the goodness of your heart? The socialists tried that, communist countries. You're going to do it for your comrades. You're going to work in those fields. We're going to take all of the produce. We might give you a little bit to live on, subsist on, but you're doing it for your comrades. We're all in this together. Okay? The government doesn't understand that. So all they do is keep raising taxes. They raise taxes or they cut what's called loopholes. Another thing that gripes me no end is on personal income taxes, you cannot write off all the medical expenses you have. It, why? That seems. Everybody talks about right to medical treatment. Yet you're not allowed to deduct all of your medical expenses from your income taxes each year. Only a portion of it over a certain amount. Wrong. Why did that ever get through? Who did that? That's ridiculous. Okay? I'm not even going to talk about the 10,000 million other things in the tax code that only benefit certain people. And again, sales tax is inherently wrong. Poor people suffer sales taxes. And that's down at the county or the city level. And cities and counties love to do that, sales tax. So what? You have to pay 4 or 5% on the apples you buy or that pie that you bought at the store that we talked about. You got to pay sales tax on that pie. It costs you. That money goes to the city or county. And thinking about taxes, what do you get out of your taxes? Thinking about it. From the federal, we get defense. Kind of hard to, see it in real life. But anyway, we get defense. We're supposed to have immigration and border control, but that isn't working out real well. We've got, what else is the state? We've got public education. That's taxes pay for that. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to universal health care. I don't like how the government does it. They basically set the price for everything on Medicare and Medicaid. They say, okay, the doctor's going to do this for you. We're going to pay him $300. From his perspective, it should be, medicine is not a free enterprise system. You very seldom do you shop around for the cheapest doctor to do a surgery, for example. In fact, it's only recently that you've been getting an estimate of how much a surgery or a procedure might cost you. That had not been something that was being done and should have been done. To give you an idea, I went to a doctor one time and had to have surgery on his shoulder, and he said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'm just curious. What does it cost? What does it cost?" And he looked at me like, "Well, if we can work something out." And I said, "No, I'm just asking. I don't have any idea. I don't know if it's 5,000, 50,000, 500,000. Can you give me an idea?" And he said 5,000. I said, "Okay, that's all I wanted to know. That's what it is." And I got insurance, and that'll pay some of it. But anyway, if it had been under Medicaid or Medicare, he would have been given like $1,000. So fortunately, a lot of doctors have agreed to support Medicare and Medicaid patients. They wouldn't have to, and they don't get paid a lot. That's how the government controls their expenses. They basically say, "Look, we're going to pay for it. You have to accept it. This is what we're going to give you." Okay? So what does that do to doctors who don't treat Medicare or Medicaid patients? They jack the service up a lot. They want to make a couple $100,000 a year. They're not going to make a couple $100,000 a year doing $1,000 surgeries on Medicare and Medicaid patients. So if you don't have Medicare or Medicaid, the insurance companies try to negotiate a discount, but nonetheless, it's a much higher price. Retail drugs. Everybody complains it's so expensive. It's so expensive. Why is it so expensive? Because the government dictated how much they'll pay for that drug on Medicare and Medicaid, and it reflects on the retail price because nobody can make any money. It is for a profit. Okay, taxes, taxes, taxes. I got apples at the factory. Now they get made. Okay, as I said, the workers that work there who get paid, they have to pay state, local, income taxes, real estate taxes, property taxes, utility taxes. I don't know. It just goes on and on and on. Gasoline taxes. What's the government going to do when we go green and we don't have gasoline excise tax anymore? That was supposed to help build roads. So what are we going to use to finance roads when we don't have gasoline tax anymore? In fact, there was a couple of years ago when Priuses came around and gasoline consumption started dropping. Oh no, the horror. We won't have enough money to build new roads. So they came up with an idea we would add, if you had a Prius car, they would charge you $200 a year just to have that car because you weren't paying enough gasoline tax. Okay? The government doesn't understand. They do and they don't care. Any tax is paid by you, the consumer. This money does not come out of the air other than what the government borrows, which is another strange deal where, yes, other countries and individuals can hold treasury bonds or the borrowing instrument by which the government deficit spends, okay? But the Federal Reserve comes in after the bonds are sold, and it can buy all the bonds at once with and just give credit to the banks or the institutions from which they bought those bonds, and they don't have anything. It's just credit. Credit is extended to credit. Federal Reserve does not have a giant stock of gold anywhere or anything like that. It literally invents debt or credit. It buys bonds and gives you credit for the bonds. That credit is it's like cash, and the banks can do whatever they want. Okay. Income taxes, federal taxes, excise taxes, luxury taxes, all those things have to be added into the cost of the product or service. Okay. And that gets passed on into some sort of retail costs that you and I pay. Automobiles. Think of all the taxes there. The raw sheet metal itself was probably, in fact, somebody told me once, the health insurance for union workers building the car, it costs more than all the sheet metal that goes into a car. And I can believe that. What I'm saying is that all these taxes, and on a car, is every component is built by somebody or another who's trying to make a profit off of it, and they had to pay all those taxes I talked about and transfer everything. It all had to be built, added into the cost of that metal that then had to have additional bills on top to cover all of the Ford Motor Company corporate taxes and dividends and everything else they have to do. That winds up in reflected in the consumer price of that automobile. Inflation. There are market forces. If it gets too high, people just can't afford it and they don't buy it. So, some producers who cannot deal with that will go out of business. Inflation can kill businesses which are not very efficient or have no wiggle room. A lot of competitors in the market, if they can't navigate properly, perhaps, and a lot of companies, they borrow money regularly. Say you're just a labor source, like contractors for the federal government. They're just labor. They might own some equipment, maybe even an office building, but by and large, it's just labor. Okay. Uh, They have to compete for government contracts. If they can't control, if they're not managed well, they can't, and they don't hire well, and HR doesn't do well, they will not be competitive, and they will go out of business. They cannot get new work. Okay, inflation affects them. Banks get hit. There was a big bank failure recently, and that had a lot to do with rising interest rates and inflation. What a big surprise! Inflation is up and interest rates are going up. What a big surprise! Sooner or later, there was this show, and it says lies and you understand. Eventually, the price has to be paid. Continually borrowing from the future and continually raising taxes to, I don't know what the agenda is with the federal government. Yeah, everybody says I have a right to health care. Everybody says, there for a while, everybody had a right to own a home. So they adjusted all the laws related to lending. And all the lenders said, oh, yeah, sure, I'll be glad to do that because once I lend you the money, I'm going to sell that debt to a federal organization, and they might hold it or they're going to package it up and sell it out to the investment market. And I'm fine. I don't care whether the quality of the loan was any good. I just let this guy buy a $400,000 house. He makes $1,000 a month. That was under the rules that was allowed. He's own a home. What happened? Giant foreclosures. No thinking. Profit, inflation, taxes, real estate taxes. Poor guy who buys his house, he didn't realize he had to pay real estate taxes or utility taxes. I got audited once by the IRS, and I had deducted utility taxes I had paid. I mean, they weren't much. I mean, over a year, the utility tax on electricity was a couple $100 or something. I don't know. And the agent said, they can't do that. And I said, but I paid income taxes on the money that I used to pay this tax. Why should I? He said, no, we pay taxes on taxes all the time. And we do. That's my point. Uh, every time you turn around, there's a tax. Um, on soft drinks, you'll see the beverage cans have various markings. 5 cents, 10 cents, whatever they are, if you recycle it. Well, in those states that have those, that 10 cents is built into the retail price because they don't know if the can's ever coming back, so they have to add it on. Uh, Taxes. It will eventually ruin our economy. You cannot keep adding taxes in a free market, if you want to call it that. The other, and I said it a long time ago, let's just nationalize everything. The government owns everything. Sort of like, I guess, various communist countries try to do. The others own everything and will manage everything. And we all know how well the government manages things. Like the southern border, like immigration. They have yet to come up with a reasonable solution for that. It's a problem. We need to control it. That's all I'm saying. I don't know about shipping people back. Some kind of controlling mechanism that's in concrete, which we abide by. We have laws, but we're not paying any attention to them. That's a baddie. Selective enforcement is always bad. It will infiltrate so everybody runs red light. Who cares? I didn't get a ticket. Selective enforcement. Anyway, I got apple pies finally made. They had to be shipped on trucking. There was road use tax. There was diesel taxes. There were taxes on the drivers. The forklift operators, the cost of the forklifts. They might have been imported from China, so they had to pay all that tax. Chinese collect income tax too, or other kind of taxes. Value-added tax in Europe, something that's made in Europe, has a value-added tax onto it before it even gets here. And then there might be an import tax, an export tax, all those kind of things. It all gets added into the retail price. And if you use anything, consume anything, you're paying that tax. There's no way around it. You keep raising taxes. We'll tax the rich. That's the answer for that. Anybody making over $400,000, well, let's tax them more. They can afford it. There was years ago the idea that, well, yachts. Millionaires have these big yachts. So we'll put a 50% excise tax on yachts. Okay, I mean, and they'll keep buying yachts. 50% isn't enough to make them stop buying yachts. We got a gravy train here. There's a perfect answer to getting more money. Actually, the federal government considers all money their money, and via taxes, they let you keep some of it. Now, get that straight. It's their money. They let you, via taxes, get some straight. Now, when they cut taxes, they're basically giving money away. That's their view. That's Nancy Pelosi's view when the taxes get decreased, federal income taxes and so on. They're giving their money back to you. It's not your money to start with. Okay? It's their money, including the estate. That's another that I really dislike. According to them, the communist idea, well, generations and generations and generations have been here and enjoyed the benefits of roads and infrastructure and blah, 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 blah. So when you pass away, whatever you've accumulated and you have, that should return to the state, to the government, all of it. Wrong. That is simply wrong. You know? But it's their money, they're just letting you keep a little bit of it. They're giving you their money. And if they give you enough to keep you happy, Anyway, the yachts. What happened? 50% excise tax or whatever it was. It did impact the market for yachts. Rich people stopped buying them. It was a luxury item for them. It was a toy. They don't need that. They could go out and buy a new Ferrari or something, and we didn't have that kind of excise tax on Ferraris. So that's what they did. Okay, yacht sales went in the toilet. Yacht companies, and there were and there are yacht companies in the United States who build yachts. Guess what happened? They had to lay off their workers. They had to shut down. Okay, now the government has not only lost the revenue for the luxury tax that they were collecting on yacht sales, they've now lost the income tax and the corporate taxes and all those other taxes related to yacht building. Duh. Not only does the federal government not understand that it is a free enterprise market, i.e. profit, and companies are in the business to make a profit. Their organizational skills, their ability to be efficient, should allow them, and their investors who help them get going in business should benefit from that product or service, i.e. profits, dividends, shares, whatever. That's motivation. That's what makes America go. Motivation. Poor people. Taxes. Okay, 50% or about that number do not pay any income tax at all. They fall below a level that they pay any. Is that fair? I don't think so. I think if you live in the United States, you should be required to pay some form of income tax, even if it's $100 a year, something. Why? They're poor. I know. They're poor. They don't have any money. Why then you doing sales tax on them and gasoline tax and every other tax you can think of? Anytime they buy or procure anything, think of all the taxes on that apple pie that poor guy just bought. He bought a luxury item for himself, an apple pie. All the taxes that were associated with that. I know it was a greedy, evil corporation That's what caused him to not buy an apple pie. Itty greedy corporation. Not all the taxes that were collected that were spent on who's. A cruise missile costs $8 million or something. One cruise missile, $8 million. The defense industry is really smart. They employ a lot of people with high-paying jobs. You hear that all the time. We're going to create, with this new program, not new program, we're going to create a lot of high-paying jobs. Presidents are always good for that. Oh, going green, new high-paying jobs. If you don't have skill sets, it doesn't matter how many new high-paying jobs there are because you can't qualify for them. Taxes. It will eventually and the federals don't care what the state are doing, and the state don't care what the city's doing, and the county don't care what the feds are doing, and none of them care what everybody else is doing, and they need more of their money back. So they raise taxes, real estate taxes, pinned to an imaginary valuation, and that goes up and down. Usually goes up, but it doesn't go down very often. Personal property taxes. That's a really good one. You own it, therefore you need to pay. What? What is that about? Because you're wealthy enough to own a car, you need to pay. What do you get out of that? Okay, in the state, at the city level, yeah, I've got public education, and I got roads, and I got police. And there's probably, utilities, infrastructure, traffic lights. Yeah, okay. You visibly can see that at the city level. At a state level, it's hard to kind of see it, but you have state police, and you have roads, and you have Medicaid at the state level. You have some big programs like that. And you have free space and national forests, things like that. You can visibly see that some of the money is being used for those things. But what do you get out of your taxes? Okay. The idea of subsidizing, or if you want to call it subsidizing, the SNAP food benefits, whatever they call it, the welfare program. It's got a new name. They change the name all the time to make it sound better, and the old one's got a stigma of abuse to it, so they change the name. It's the same thing. I'm not opposed to those things, but after a while, are we trying to get everybody to that level? We're going to tax people into that situation where they have to get food benefits and supplemental income each month to live? Is that the idea? We'll tax everybody down to that level? Because that's what's going on. They seem to be trying to do that. Between all the taxes, they are going to be crushing, especially those in marginal areas, marginal incomes. What does it cost to live in the United States now? Just to subsist, have a house, and pay all those taxes, and have food on the table, and maybe get some TV at night. What does it cost? 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand, 50 grand? Somewhere in there, even 20 grand, I don't think would let you live in most places and pay all those things. Anyway, if we don't do something about taxes, I don't think there's one economist that's in Congress, one congressman or one senator. They're all lawyers. They're all politicians. It's not their money. Actually, it is their money, and they're trying to get more of their money back from you so they can spend it as they see fit. And the green thing, I'm not opposed to that either. I understand. I will accept climate change, and we need to do something. And the way the government can do that is to punish bad behavior. and reward good behavior. Subsidize electric cars. You know, how much does that help poor people? Not a whole lot. Okay, providing weapons to Ukraine, billions and billions of dollars. Yes or no? That's a tough one. That's a tough one. International politics, international relations are hard. But your tax money is going there. Actually, it's federal government money, and they're just keeping more of their money via taxes so they can give it over there, or they're borrowing money to do it. It will come crumbling down eventually, and you probably know this. If the federal deficit gets high enough, the interest on the debt will eventually eat all of the revenue, we want to call it that, tax revenue, that the federal government gets each year. And when that happens, there's no money for additional spending at all. You get to a tipping point, all of the money that they have gotten back from you that was their money is now using to pay interest. They don't even have any money to spend on anything new. Now, is the borrowing market going to lend them more money when they're just simply paying interest only? I don't think so. That's a long way off, a good number of years away. But it can and it will happen. I see no reason to think that it will not happen because those in political power do not have the will to stop all of the spending. They come up with more ideas, and we're going to make things better for every American, for the middle class. I don't even know what middle class is anymore. They have taxed wealthier people into the middle class. They have not drug anybody up from the poor into the middle class. That has not happened. They got sales tax to take care of that. They got gasoline tax. They got property tax. Even poor people who own a car got to pay property tax. Anyway, I've ranted way too long about taxes, but the overall tax, there is no overall U.S. tax strategy, if you will. Feds don't consider states. States don't consider cities. Cities and counties don't consider. They do whatever they need to do. And and everybody, if policemen get raises, not often enough, and teachers get raises, they do. They have to do that. I mean, things are tough. To pay those raises, they got to get some of their money back from you somehow to make those raises, so they have to raise. Now, you pay additional taxes. You don't have the money to go to that store to buy that apple pie anymore. It's a luxury item. Everybody suffers. The pie maker, he's not selling as many pies. The grocery store is not selling as much stuff. A hardware store, they all start suffering. They can't, it goes away. Consumption. Chinese have a terrible consumption problem. Their population, they're not consuming enough. That's the problem they have. The factories are consuming good because they're producing products, but the consumer isn't buying enough. In fact, you as an American have a responsibility to buy more stuff now. You need to get out there and buy stuff and pay sales taxes and pay the taxes on that apple pie that got collected. All those thousand steps that were involved in getting that apple pie right to almost to your door. We even have Uber now that brings it to your door. And there's taxes associated, from gasoline to real estate taxes, personal property taxes. Anyway, taxes are insidious, and they eat out the inside of any economy. And the only solution will be nationalization. The government takes over everything. That way, all the money is theirs, and they're going to dole out a little bit to let you survive. That's That's the way it'll work. Think about it. The history will show you that is what's going to happen until the government understands and tries to consider the fact that this is a semi-free enterprise system and that motivation is to make profit, to be competitive in the marketplace. They'll The way they're going to try to tax out of existence private ownership of anything. That's enough. This is episode whatever. It's way too long. Nobody ever made it to this point anyway. This is Uncle Ron stuff, and today is the 12th of March, 2023. I got to go outside and do dirt again. It's cold, and I don't want to do it. That's why I'm here. Anyway, I don't have an answer. There for a long time, I only held my investments were always tax-free Virginia bonds. I didn't pay no income tax on those. You greedy, evil man, you. Why are you complaining about paying taxes? Taxes benefit everybody, right? They haven't particularly helped the poor people. And sales taxes really don't help the poor people, and personal property taxes don't help poor people. Okay? We are so stupid. Our elected officials are just plain stupid.